Hello, I am Fiona Sitkin, a host of a talk show, The Bridge for Women Worldwide. Welcome to The Bridge, my friends. In this talk show, as well as in my blogs and the recent book, How They Made It in America, the focus is on women role models. Why? Because I would like all people, especially women, to build up their lives using excellent ideas and blueprints. And today, our topic is Woman on a Mission, Soul and Strength. And our star guest today is Sejal Sekar, attorney, speaker, and educator, also a chief civility officer of Train Extra. You will hear a story of a remarkable lady lawyer who is also a diversity, equity, inclusion professional. You will learn what it takes for the second generation Indian American to hold her own and be on a mission to empower others. So without further ado, welcome to our talk show, Sejal.
Thank you, Fiona. It's my pleasure to be a part of your show and to be able to contribute my perspectives with all of these amazing women that you've had on your show. So thank you again.
Of course, dear friends, I admire Sejal Sekar for a reason. She is a strong woman and strong and soulful professional on a mission. See for yourself. After being labor and employment litigation attorney for several law firms, she worked for University of California, San Francisco as complaint resolution officer. Then she redefined her mission in life. Redefined her mission in life, why? To contribute more directly to the people. And she does it today, being a founder and chief civility officer of Train Extra. Train Extra is a consulting company which helps business leaders to create inclusive workplaces for many, many people. Isn't that beautiful? So again, thank you for coming to our talk show, Sejal.
Oh, thank you for this warm introduction, Fiona. It's my pleasure again to be here.
Sure. I have a question for you. After graduating from Northern Illinois University with Juris Doctorate cum laude, why did you take to advocating for diversity and inclusion? Huh? This is the question.
You know, it's important to understand that I'm a child of Indian immigrants, right? I experienced a lot of harassment, discrimination, and bullying as I was growing up at a very young age. I mean, I was born soon after my parents moved here from India. And we grew up in a predominantly Italian neighborhood in a suburb of Chicago called Elmwood Park. And so we were the only Indian family there, Fiona. And, you know, a lot of people made it very clear that we were not welcome there. So that's a huge factor. And then on top of that, at home, I was really dealing with the duality of living between two different cultures. At home, it was like being back at home in India. We had the Indian clothes, the Indian food, the Indian culture, the Indian religion. And then as soon as I stepped outside, everything was American. So I was now, you know, dealing with two worlds. And it was a struggle to have to navigate through those two different cultures. And then it didn't help to have all this stuff, the antagonism that I was dealing with on the outside. So growing up, I always knew, and I always had a passion for social justice. And I wanted to do something to help advocate for marginalized groups, for immigrants, so that people wouldn't have to go through what I went through at such a young age.
Yeah, that was traumatic, I'm sure.
It was very hard, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I did my TEDx talk, was because I wanted to raise awareness on the fact that immigrants, and especially children of immigrants, don't have a lot of support or resources to help them in navigating through these situations. So we need to do better. And so thank you for writing your book, which really raises awareness on immigrants and women and refugees and so forth. But as we keep doing this work and having these conversations, I do believe we can make a difference.
Yeah, I am myself an immigrant, so I feel for other immigrants. I also deeper understand them. But thank you for answering the question. Now, let me ask you this. You have built a very successful business, right? Drain Extra. Could you please share what is cool and fun and beautiful in your work? And is there food for thought? Is there food for the soul? In other words, what inspires you, Sejal?
I would love to answer that question. Look, my work is my passion. And so I wrote down this quote that I wanted to share with you, Fiona. It's a quote by Wayne Dyer. He wrote, "You can either feel sorry for yourself or treat what happened as a gift. Everything is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle that keeps us from growing. You get to choose." And I love this quote because, look, life is full of challenges. I just talked about some of the challenges I've gone through. We can't control it all, but we do have a choice in how we respond. And as I've gone through my personal and my professional experiences, I've realized that I can choose to take what happened to me to stay a victim, or I can turn that around and use my resources, use my voice, use my work to make a difference in people's lives. And so every day I have the ability to inspire other people, to make a positive difference, to bring people together, to build bridges between cultures. So if I can just make a difference for one person, that's food for my soul. And I get to do that every single day. So it's awesome.
Thank you so much for answering the way you answered. I am fully supportive of that. Now, as a second generation immigrant of Indian descent, born and raised in the Midwest and now living and working in a diverse state of California, you have a very good idea of the cultural differences, right? How do you navigate cultural differences in your training with your clients?
Well, as I said, Fiona, I have been navigating cultural differences from day one, right? Being a minority, growing up in my household, also being a minority in a majority minority space really helped me see things, the ability to understand people from a different perspective, right? So I believe that because of my experiences, having been made to feel like I was an outsider, I've now gained the ability to help understand people and to relate to them better. So because I've had to navigate myself through some pretty tough spaces, I've had to fit in, right? I've had to read people, exercise emotional intelligence, and learn how to deal with those uncomfortable situations because of my experiences. And so when you're in that situation, when people look at you as an outsider, you get to see people from a different perspective. And that is that you get to see people holistically. Right. And that allows you to connect with all sorts of people. And so in my career, I truly believe this, when you strip everything away, we are all looking for the same thing. And that is that we want to, we want to relate to each other. That's what we want. Right. So in my work, in my training, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen and what I try to really talk about in my workshop is to help people understand that, look, a lot of times it's a lack of awareness. When you put different people together, regardless of the culture or regardless of the different diversity that they bring to the table, it's going to create some challenges, no matter what that diversity is. And so we all know diversity is a good thing. We know it's good for business, it's good for everything, but it can also lead to conflict between people. And so what I do is I help people understand how to recognize differences and then how to deal with those cultural differences so they can get more comfortable with each other. They can communicate with each other. They can resolve conflict with each other so that we can recognize and appreciate each other's perspectives and contributions.
Yeah, you bridge cultural differences, in other words, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And now a follow-up question about your work. How much attention do you pay to immigrant or refugee women? Well, immigrant and refugee women are a special diversity demographic given their vulnerabilities in languages and cultures, right?
Absolutely. After COVID, I really turned up the volume on the topic of again, like I said, the TEDx talk was one way that I wanted to raise awareness by the challenges that are dealt with by immigrants and their children. It's such an important topic. And so we definitely need to do more. Now, I have not focused on refugee women as much specifically, but I'm glad that you are doing such an amazing job at helping raise awareness on this topic, because again, there are very specific challenges and vulnerabilities dealt by those marginalized groups. And so keep up the good work, Fiona. Thank you so much for doing, for impacting that space.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to ask you about some of your amazing, really amazing TED Talks. Could you please share or give a gist of your TED Talks, please?
Absolutely. This talk was so powerful for me. It was a huge sort of everything that I've done to this point came together in this talk. A big part of my journey, Fiona, both from a personal perspective and professionally, has been learning about how unconscious bias impacts all of us and how we really need to be intentional to be able to recognize it in ourselves so that we can grow beyond our preconditioning. And what I realized as I was doing my work as a defense attorney and as a facilitator is that there was a huge lack of awareness on this topic. There was hardly any education on it about how unconscious bias operates, because honestly, a lot of new research and science has come out just in the last decade. And so people don't realize just how much unconscious bias runs our lives and impacts every single decision that we make, and that it can lead to harmful outcomes if it's not dealt with. And then it results in the prejudice and hate that I had to deal with as I grew up. And so the talk really focuses in on unconscious bias and really gives you a look at bias from 3 different perspectives. It talks about the pain of bias, and that's where I'm really talking about my history of what I've gone through as a child, dealing with bias, as a woman, what I've dealt with in bias. And so I talk about the pain of bias to let people kind of see this is how it impacts people and how we treat each other. And then I talk about the paradox of bias. And that's really talking about my career as a defense attorney. I got to see bias from a whole different perspective. I thought I was going to be seeing people, and just so you have a little bit of background, I defended management and supervisors in cases that dealt with discrimination and harassment. So I was a defense attorney. So I got to see the flip side of bias. And what I thought I was going to see was a lot of bad, malicious people. And what I ended up seeing were actually people who were well-intentioned people, but they were misguided. There was a lack of unawareness. They were acting on their own biases because of the way that they had been raised. And so many of these people were trying to do their best, but they were, without realizing it, they were saying or doing something that was harming somebody. And then that behavior wasn't addressed, so it kept going on. And now it looked like intentional discrimination. So there I talk about the paradox of bias. And then I give you some science in my talk about the power of how unconscious bias works. And so, I developed a framework early on in my career that I call the HAT approach. And I talk about this framework in the TEDx talk to help people understand that, hey, we can mitigate our unconscious bias. You just have to do the work to understand what it is. And here are some strategies you can use to minimize it. So that's really what the talk is about.
Yeah, we can mitigate. We cannot probably eliminate because we grew up with this, but mitigate we can. And mitigate we should. Absolutely. I think this is really approach, not 100% black or white, but just mitigating, moving slowly but steadily towards one direction, right?
Absolutely. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, we are at one with that. Sejal, I noticed that you pay a lot of attention in your work and life to the values, and I love that. Let us now talk about your own values, the values that made you you. As you may know, in my book, How They Made It in America, we discuss the common success values of my 18 prominent immigrant book subjects. Now, which of these values may have helped you? Which of them may you be holding close to your heart, huh?
Well, I'm going to start with emotional intelligence. That is, for me, the number one. And I'm just going to read from your book, because I love this and you said it perfectly. So this is right from your book. You said, some people just get along with others. They connect with others and respond sensibly, even when challenged. They tend to be balanced, caring, proactive, and have great insight into themselves and others. I completely agree with that statement. And I also agree with what you said in the book about how emotional intelligence can be learned. And so I believe that a lot of the problems that we are having right now today deal with the fact that people have not been taught how to cultivate their emotional intelligence skills. So again, I recommend everybody read your book, because you gave some great strategies on how people can build on their emotional intelligence. It's something that I focus in on my workshops. And so let's keep doing what we're doing and continue to help people understand that we can change the outcome. We can choose to respond differently. It just requires emotional intelligence. So that's a really big success value. And the other one is inclusive leadership. Right? I believe, Fiona, that each one of us is a leader. Every single one of us, our actions, whether it's directly or indirectly, influences other people. And so I think that inclusive mindset, and again, you talk about this in your book as well, that it's a mindset. It's something that we have to choose, and then we have to intentionally align our actions to that mindset, and keeping in mind that as leaders, we are role models. So our actions have to speak louder than our words. Every day, it's a daily mindset, and it has to be something where we have to be able to challenge ourselves to go against the grain and use our voices and influence to encourage other people to do the same. So I try to show up every day as an inclusive leadership, and I try to bring my emotional intelligence game 100% to all of the work that I do.
Thank you ever so much for your contribution to the discussion of values. I think going forward, it's very important that such people as you are at the forefront of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe, Sejal, that yours is a success story of a professional lawyer with the soul of the people's person, which is beautiful. So let me thank you for doing your diversity, equity, inclusion work from an innovative perspective of a lawyer plus educator and coach. This alone makes you a role model for men and women alike. And that is a great mission in life. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Fiona. And if there's anything that I can do to support you in your work, please just let me know.
Thanks. And now, guys, our dear audience, let me thank you for watching The Bridge for Women Worldwide. Please subscribe to our channel. It is now over 7,000 subscribers strong and counting. And also let us connect via following links. YouTube channel, you can comment there. My personal book website, www.fionasitkin.com, and my email. You are welcome. And now Sejal and I are wishing all of you to stay well and healthy for years to come. We shall overcome COVID and beyond. I salute you. Bye-bye.